Hi, Chris here. Thanks for stopping by my channel, All Time Jack. Today I'm going to make this neat little bandsaw box with the suede flock drawers. Going to use a couple of different types of hardwood. Fun little project. Follow along. I'm going to start out with some 8/4 mahogany and some 8/4 alder as well. Going to get them marked and cut, and I'm just cutting them around 6 inches, a little over 6 inches. Give a little wiggle room. Now we've got our 3 pieces, and we'll go over to the bandsaw. So I'll rip them right down the middle. It'll give us 6 pieces. This box will just require 5. This is a bandsaw box, so we're going to be using the bandsaw a lot. Obviously, be very careful using a bandsaw. It really helps to have the proper setup. Your work comes out better, and it's easier to use the machine safely. Now we have our 6 pieces. We're going to pick 5, mix them up a little bit, and join them and plane them. I am having to do this against the grain here, but it's just for a glue surface, and I want them to be perfectly flat. Now we'll run them through the planer. And I'm going to mark them here just so I don't get them mixed up when I glue them together. Now let's get them glued up. I'm using Type Bond 3, great glue. You want to put a good amount on there, but you don't want to put too much or you might have some squeeze out problems. We're going to get started off with these little blue clamps, but it's going to require some heavier duty clamps. So we'll get those on now. Wipe off the excess glue, let it cure up, pull them off. And now we have an ugly chunk of wood. Let's sand it down just a little bit so we can rub some mineral spirits on it and see where we want to cut it out. And I can already tell I want to use that lower half there. So I'm going to bend up a wire form into some sort of shape here. Stick it on there. Trace it out. Put a line across the bottom. And now we have a shape to cut out. We'll go back over to the bandsaw. I'm going to cut across the top first instead of doing all in one cut, because I'm going to use the sides as cawls to pull it back together later on. And now we'll get the sides cut out. These will end up serving several different purposes throughout this project. And how about a slow-mo spin? Nice. Here I'm just using a radius gauge or a circle gauge to get me a radius on the side so I have something to connect to give me a shape to cut out. Now back to the bandsaw. One of these days I'm going to realize part of my dust collector came apart there at the bottom. And now it's time to cut the back of the box off. Whichever you determine is the back side, you need to cut that off before you flip it over and do this part, because you're going to have to glue it back on later. I just cut about 3/16 off of the back of this one. You can pick however thick or thin you want yours, and then go in and cut your pockets out. You can do these in one cut as well. I broke my 1/8 inch blade, so I have to use this 1/4 inch blade. That makes it real tight. I went in from the bottom on the bottom pocket to get it to line up better, and then from the side on this one. And there we are. Now we have some pockets. Now we got to make some drawers. So I'm going to mark them out and cut the front and the back off of these. And this is where you really got to pay attention and keep all of your parts oriented exactly where they go. Mark them if you have to. Just make sure they go back on exactly the way they came off. Pay very close attention. Just because you get the right sides with the right sides, you can still get those individual pieces flipped over or turned around backwards. I almost did it right here. Caught it. And now we'll do the same for the upper drawer. And what we're doing exactly here is cutting the front and the back off, because we've got to cut a drawer shape out of the middle. And then we'll glue the front and the back on and have an actual drawer. And here we go with the circle gauge again. And just doing the same thing, just getting a radius on the side and connecting the middle with a straight edge. And I played with this a little bit just till I got it where I liked it. Get the curl up on the top just right. And then again, we'll do the same on the bottom drawer. And now back over to the bandsaw. And I still haven't noticed that part of the dust collector is disconnected. Now let's get these drawers cut out. Be very careful. Cut them out as precise as you can. The better craftsmanship you have throughout this process, the less work you have to do later. Well, looky there. I finally noticed the dust collector. It's working pretty good now. All right. We got us some drawers. Sort of. Right there, I'm just knocking off the loose fibers. You don't want to sand these down or anything because they go back on just like they came off, and you have those little machine grooves and all that stuff that'll just let them line right back up as long as you have them oriented right. Now we'll get them glued up and clamped up. Do the same for the upper drawer. We'll have to use a few more clamps for this one. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get it all lined up. When you start to tighten the clamp up, they'll seep out and go a little bit this way or a little bit that way. Just take a little time and get it right. Wipe out that excess glue. Save you a lot of time later. Let it cure up, and then we'll unclamp them. And we got us some drawers. Sweet. Let's put them in and see how they fit. Don't put them in backwards. Now I'm going to use those cutoffs from earlier as cauls and glue this back together. And then let it cure up, pull it apart. And now we'll do the other side. And what I'm doing here, I'm using CA glue. And I'm just showing you can use this. And you can use this activator if you want to, but you got to be real quick. You got about 2 seconds. If I had taken a second longer, I wouldn't have got it all the way together. But then you can get right back to work and you don't have to wait for glue to dry. Gonna flatten the bottom out a little bit. And I'm just gonna lightly as I can go through here and kind of take out some of the machine marks, some of the burn marks. You really don't want to take out any more space out of there so the drawers still fit in there good. And now we'll put some glue on here and get ready to put the back on. Get it put on, get it clamped up, let it cure up, take the clamps off. And now back to those same cutoffs again. Gonna need some kind of pull handles for these drawers, so we might as well just make them out of something that already has some shape to it. So back to the bandsaw. Be real careful on these little bitty pieces. I think that'll work. Now I'll go over to the shaper and just smooth it out into something. Play around with it till you get something you like. Now we'll just slide the drawers in and set them up top of there and see how they look. I think that'll work. And now we're going to get busy sanding on the outside. And as I said earlier, the better your craftsmanship is throughout this process, the less you'll have to do later. And that is particularly true when it comes to sanding. I don't know anybody that enjoys sanding more than they have to. The better work you do, the less sanding you'll have to do. And now I'm going to run up that rockler roll by hand. I think it's 150 to 600. Going to take some time with it, get it nice and ready to put some finish on. Going to blow it all off with some compressed air here, and then wipe it down, really just clean it off with some mineral spirits. That'll pop the grain out a little bit. You can sand it if you want to, get that grain pop out a little more. but really just getting it ready to put some finish on it. Go ahead and glue these pull handles on real quick. My daughter suggested I turn them opposite of each other, and I think that turned out pretty good. And now we'll mix up some shiny sauce. It's 105 out here today, so I could probably get away without mixing it with any mineral spirits. But it's a very easy process. It works really nice. Hitting it with a tack cloth real quick, and then put the first coat on. It's real thin. You want to sand in between the coats. You gotta be real careful with your first couple of coats though, because just sand off everything you just put on. So sometimes I'll get 2 or 3 coats on before I start sanding in between coats. Or I'll use something non-abrasive to rub across it a little bit in between the first 2 or 3 coats. Here we are now after a couple of coats. It seems like my magic number usually ends up at 7 or 8 coats at a 50-50 mix. And I'll really start sanding pretty good now in between coats. I like to build up some good even coats for a good protective layer and then still have a nice shine. But you get too much and it starts looking fake and plastic. And you can see right here, it's starting to get on there pretty thick. It's looking real good right here. I like to get it about right here, maybe one more coat. Don't forget all your little spaces in the front and the pull handles and all that. And you'll see right here, just about the right time I like to stop. That'll let me sand it back down with some 800 a little bit. And then I'll get the microfibers and go from 1500 to 12,000. And I'll start that right here. It'll knock it back down, take that sheen away. And then you'll get about halfway through and you'll start seeing it come back a little bit. And then once you get all the way through that microfiber pack, you'll have a nice, even and smooth shine on it. And if you want to get it shinier, you can polish it from there and get it as shiny as you want. And now I'm just going to tape it up because in order to put the suede on, we've got to have sealer on the inside. And you can use just about anything you want for sealer as long as it seals the wood up. This is just a spray-on shellac. And with this heat here, 105 degrees, I can put a coat on about every 45 seconds and just build it up to however far I need to. Here I'm just putting some butcher block conditioner in here. I don't want to put anything in there I'm going to have to sand on. You can use oil or whatever, wax. Anything you don't have to sand. That looks good. It's about time to flock this thing. I'm going to use this blue today. I was going to use this real pretty red that I have, but for some reason having a very difficult time getting the matching glue for it. And now we're just going to load it up with these fibers. Really vibrant, pretty blue. Now we'll open up the glue and stir it up. You have to use the matching glue to the fibers. And we'll brush the glue on. You want to be careful because the fibers will stick to wherever there is glue. And now we'll just go around and flock it. And be sure you got something to catch all those extra fibers because all of that will pour right back in the bag and still be good. Now we'll do the same with the big drawer. And now we'll flock the bigger drawer. And be sure and get good coverage. Don't be afraid to put a lot of fiber in there. Whatever doesn't stick will dump right back into the bag. And if you've got sidewalls or something that's at an angle or something, try to get at that angle. And now we'll brush this one off. Now we'll brush the small one off. Tap on it a little bit. Let them set overnight for 10 to 15 hours. And there we are. This is a really neat little project. They're really fun to make. They make great gifts. You can make them any shape you want to, as many drawers as you want to. Use different kinds of woods. Flock it with whatever color you want, or don't flock it at all. Please like and subscribe if you like this sort of thing. Check out some of my other videos as well at All Time Jack. Thanks for watching. See you next time.